The discovery. Dr. Maya Patel's eyes burned from staring at quantum oscillation patterns for 18 straight hours. The observation deck of Titan Research Station hummed with the familiar sounds of cooling systems and data processors. Outside the reinforced windows, Saturn's largest moon cast long shadows across the station's solar arrays. Maya had chosen this posting 5 years ago for its isolation, perfect for someone who preferred equations to small talk. Now, that isolation felt like a liability. Dr. Patel, you need to see this. Alexei Kuznetsov, her research assistant, pointed at an anomalous pattern on his holographic display. The quantum entanglement detector picked it up about 20 minutes ago. It's unlike anything in our database. Maya frowned, pushing a lock of black hair behind her ear as she studied the readout. The pattern pulsed with an unmistakable rhythm. Artificial, not natural. That's impossible. Quantum signals can't be directed like this without a receiver on our end. That's what I thought too, Alexei said, his voice dropping to a whisper as though the walls might be listening. But this isn't random noise. Look at the structure. It's repeating in precise intervals. She enhanced the signal, isolating it from the background quantum foam. The pattern became clearer. Pulses grouped in sets of 3, then 5, then 7. Prime numbers, she whispered. Someone's trying to get our attention. Maya immediately alerted Station Director Harlow, who reacted with predictable skepticism until she showed him the mathematical impossibility of such a pattern occurring naturally. Within hours, Earth's Unified Space Command had been notified, and Maya found herself explaining quantum physics to increasingly high-ranking officials over secure channels. "We believe it's a form of communication," she told Admiral Chen of the USC during their third briefing. "The signal contains embedded information packets that seem to be designed to interface with our quantum computing systems. It's as if whoever sent this knew exactly how our technology works." "Are you suggesting we allow an alien signal to access our networks?" The Admiral's face hardened on the screen. "That sounds like the beginning of every invasion scenario our threat assessment teams have modeled." Maya understood his concern. "We've constructed an isolated system with no connection to our main networks. We can study the signal safely." After much debate, approval came through. Maya and her team spent days building a contained quantum receiver capable of decoding the strange message. When they finally activated it, the results were breathtaking. 3-dimensional star charts materialized in the air, showing systems Maya had never seen in any astronomy database. Then came images, spacecraft unlike any human design, worlds with strange topographies, and finally, beings. They were humanoid but clearly alien, tall with iridescent skin that shifted between deep purple and aquamarine. Their eyes were large and faceted like insect eyes, but their expressions were unmistakably filled with terror. "This is Ambassador Kelleth of the Sarian Confederation." The translation matrix interpreted. "This message is directed to the developing intelligence we have observed in your system. We transmit this warning through quantum channels as all other methods of communication have been compromised." Maya felt her pulse quicken as the message continued. "Our civilization is being systematically eradicated by an entity we call the Void Collective. They consume all in their path: resources, technology, knowledge, and life itself. We have tracked their movements across 17 sectors. Your system lies directly in their projected path." The images shifted to show massive dark vessels moving through space like predators, tearing apart planets and leaving only debris in their wake. "We have exhausted our defenses. Our remaining ships carry the last of our kind, seeking refuge beyond the Collective's reach. We send this warning so you might prepare or evacuate before they arrive. Based on their current velocity, you have approximately 1 Earth year before first contact." The message ended with detailed scans of the Void Collective's vessels, their apparent technological capabilities, and observed tactical patterns. Maya sat in stunned silence as the implications washed over her. Humanity had long debated whether we were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it came with an existential threat. Within days, A small fleet of unidentified vessels appeared at the edge of the solar system. Earth's defense forces prepared for the worst until the ships transmitted a familiar quantum signature. The Sarians had arrived, the tattered remains of a once great civilization, reduced to a handful of refugee ships. The United Earth Council convened an emergency session to decide how to respond. Maya watched the proceedings from Titan, frustrated by the political maneuvering as some nations advocated accepting the refugees, while others demanded they be turned away. They could be leading these void collective entities straight to us, argued the Chinese representative. Or they could provide valuable intelligence and technology to help us prepare, countered the representative from the African Union. After 3 days of heated debate, the Council narrowly voted to allow a single Sarian vessel to approach Earth for diplomatic talks. The remaining ships would be directed to a containment orbit around Jupiter until further notice. Maya received orders to return to Earth immediately. Her expertise in quantum communications made her the obvious choice to join the first contact team. As her transport ship pulled away from Titan Station, she caught a final glimpse of Saturn's rings, a sight that had brought her peace for 5 years. She wondered if she would ever see them again. The diplomatic meeting took place at the neutral Midway Station in Earth orbit. Maya found herself face to face with Ambassador Killith, whose actual appearance was even more striking than the holographic representation. The Sarian's skin rippled with colors that seemed to reflect emotional states, currently shifting between deep blues and anxious purples. Dr. Patel, Killith spoke through a translation device. You were the one who received our message. The Sarian people owe you a debt of gratitude. I only did what any scientist would do. Maya replied, trying not to stare at the alien's faceted eyes. But I have so many questions about your quantum transmission technology. It defies our current understanding of entanglement principles. Killith's skin brightened slightly. In better times, I would delight in discussing theoretical physics with you. Our civilizations could have learned much from each other. But now we have more urgent matters to address. Over the next several hours, Killith provided devastating details about the Void Collective, a hive-mind entity that had evolved beyond biological constraints, existing as a fusion of organic and machine intelligence with a single directive: consumption and assimilation of all advanced technology and resources. They do not negotiate. They do not recognize other sentient rights. They simply take, incorporate what they find useful, and discard the rest. Killith explained, displaying records of entire worlds reduced to barren rock. How do they detect civilizations? Asked General Rivera, Earth's highest-ranking military officer. Any form of energy signature or transmission. Your radio broadcasts have been announcing your presence for over a century. That is likely how they found you. The implications were clear. Humanity couldn't hide, and based on the Sarians' experience, couldn't fight conventionally either. There must be a weakness. Maya insisted. No system is perfect. We thought so too. Killith's skin darkened to a mournful indigo. 300 years we fought them. 300 years we watched our worlds fall, one by one. The meeting was abruptly interrupted when Earth's early warning systems detected multiple anomalies at the edge of the solar system, massive objects decelerating from faster-than-light travel. That's impossible, General Rivera muttered, studying the incoming data. Our calculations gave us a year at minimum. Killith's skin paled to an ashen gray. They must have accelerated their timeline when they detected our ships entering your system. We have led them directly to you. Panic spread through the station as more data poured in. Not a year, not even months. Humanity had days, perhaps only hours before the first wave of the Void Collective arrived. All stations, all Earth Defense Forces, this is not a drill, General Rivera announced, his voice steadied despite the chaos. Implement Contingency Protocol Omega. Civilian evacuation to designated shelters begins immediately. Maya watched in horror as the tactical displays showed 7 massive vessels approaching, each one larger than Earth's largest city. The Void Collective had arrived, and humanity was woefully unprepared. There might be a way, Killith said suddenly, placing a six-fingered hand on Maya's arm. Our scientists, the few who survived, they were developing a quantum disruption theory before our last research center fell. It was never completed, but perhaps with your insights into quantum communications. Maya felt the weight of billions of lives pressing down on her shoulders. I'll need everything you have, and access to Earth's quantum computing grid. Authorized, General Rivera said without hesitation. Whatever resources you need. As the first attacks hit the outer system monitoring stations, Maya and a hastily assembled team of human and Sarian scientists began a desperate race against time. Humanity's last stand would begin not with weapons, but with equations and untested theories. Outside Earth's atmosphere, the combined fleet of Earth's space forces, ships never designed for true combat, moved into defensive positions. On the ground, civilians crowded into emergency shelters, many not understanding the true nature of the threat looming above them. And at the edge of the solar system, the harbingers of extinction methodically destroyed everything in their path as they moved inward toward the third planet from an unremarkable yellow star. The last stand. Commander Elijah Torres watched the tactical display with narrowed eyes as the first of Earth's defensive satellites disintegrated under the Void Collective's energy weapons. The U.S. Defiant, Earth's newest and most advanced warship, shuddered as its engines pushed to maximum thrust, positioning for a counterattack that Torres knew would likely be futile. "Status report," he demanded, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. "Orbital defense platforms, Alpha through Delta, are gone, sir," Lieutenant Park reported, her fingers flying across the tactical console. "Mars colony has gone dark. Lunar base reports multiple incoming hostiles." Torres nodded grimly. The Void Collective had bypassed Jupiter's orbit with barely a pause, destroying the science stations and mining operations there with casual efficiency. 3 Sarian refugee vessels had been obliterated before they could maneuver away. "All ships, execute attack pattern Sierra," Torres ordered. "Focus fire on the lead vessel's propulsion systems." Earth's combined fleet minus 112 ships from various nations, most hastily retrofitted with experimental weapons, moved as one, concentrating their firepower on a single point. For a moment, Torres allowed himself to hope as their combined batteries struck the massive alien vessel. When the energy dissipated, the enemy ship was completely unharmed. "They've adapted their shields," reported the Sarian tactical officer who had joined Torres' crew. Melit's skin had turned ashen with despair. "They analyze attack patterns and adjust defenses in real time. This was how they overcame our first lines of defense as well." Torres slammed his fist against the armrest of his command chair. "Then we changed tactics. Random firing patterns, no coordination. Tell all ships, fire at will, unpredictable targeting." It bought them minutes, nothing more. The Void Collective's response was devastating. Precise energy beams lanced out, cutting through Earth ships with surgical precision. The Defiant rocked violently as a nearby destroyer exploded. "Casualties mounting across the fleet, sir," Park reported, her voice cracking. 37 ships lost already." Torres opened a channel to Earth Command. "We need those quantum weapons now, or there won't be anything left to defend." Deep beneath Geneva, in a reinforced bunker that housed Earth's most advanced quantum research facility, Dr. Maya Patel worked frantically alongside her hybrid team of human and Sarian scientists. Holographic equations floated in the air around them, constantly shifting as they refined their desperate theory. "The problem isn't generating the quantum disruption field," Maya explained to General Rivera, who had come to check their progress personally. "It's targeting it precisely enough to affect their neural networks without collapsing into random noise." Ambassador Killith's skin pulsed with intense concentration as he manipulated a complex three-dimensional model of what they understood of the Void Collective's communication systems. "Their hive mind operates on principles similar to our quantum entanglement technology, but vastly more sophisticated," Killith explained. "If we can introduce a cascading decoherence pattern at exactly the right frequency." "How close are you?" Rivera demanded, acutely aware of the desperate battle raging in orbit above them. Maya glanced at the latest casualty reports streaming in and forced herself to focus. Hours, maybe. We need more processing power to run the final simulations. You have it, Rivera said without hesitation. I'm authorizing emergency protocols to divert all global quantum computing resources to your team. As Rivera left, Maya returned to her calculations, trying to ignore the tremors that occasionally shook the facility as void collective forces began targeting surface installations. The quantum disruption weapon was theoretically sound, a precisely calibrated field that would interrupt the collective's neural entanglement, essentially giving the hive mind the equivalent of a massive seizure, but translating theory into deployable technology under battlefield conditions seemed nearly impossible. Dr. Patel, one of the Syrian scientists, called out, I believe I've isolated the resonance frequency of their primary command node. Maya rushed to examine the new data. This could work, she whispered, a tiny flame of hope kindling in her chest. But we'd need to get a transmission vessel within their defensive perimeter. An impossible task, another scientist muttered. Maya thought of the billions of people in shelters around the world, of the pilots and crews fighting and dying in orbit. We have to try, she said firmly. Prepare the prototype for deployment. Commander Torres had 15 ships left under his command, the scattered remnants of Earth's once proud fleet. The Void Collective's vessels had established a geosynchronous position over Earth's major population centers, deploying smaller craft that had begun systematic attacks on ground defenses. Incoming transmission from Geneva Command, Lieutenant Park announced. Torres nodded wearily, preparing for more bad news. Instead, Dr. Maya Patel's face appeared on the main view screen. Commander, we have a prototype quantum disruption device ready for deployment, she said without preamble. But it needs to be delivered directly into the center of their formation to affect all vessels simultaneously. Torres studied the tactical display. A suicide mission. Then, understood, Doctor. Transmit the technical specifications. We'll handle the delivery. After reviewing the data, Torres addressed his remaining officers. The Defiant will carry the device. I need minimal crew, volunteers only. Every hand on the bridge raised. Torres felt a surge of pride that momentarily overcame his exhaustion. Very well. Lieutenant Park, you'll handle navigation. Mellet, I need your insights on their tactical patterns. He turned to his communications officer. Inform the rest of the crew to evacuate to the escape pods. Rendezvous with the remnants of the European fleet. As preparations were made, Torres recorded a brief message for his daughter back on Earth. He kept it simple, told her he loved her, that he was proud of her, that he believed humanity would survive this, somehow. He didn't say goodbye. The quantum device arrived via high-speed shuttle, a deceptively small object for something meant to save humanity. Maya Patel accompanied it, insisting on making final calibrations personally. The timing has to be perfect, she explained as she worked. Too early, and they'll adapt. Too late. She didn't need to finish the thought. Torres watched her work, impressed by her focus despite the chaos around them. You know this is likely a one-way trip, Doctor. Maya nodded without looking up from her adjustments. My family was in New Delhi when it was hit. I have nothing left to lose. Torres placed a hand on her shoulder briefly, a simple human connection in what might be their final hours. When the device was ready, the Defiant began its approach, using debris from destroyed vessels as cover. Melek provided invaluable guidance, predicting the patterns of the collective's sensor suites. They still think collectively, the Syrian explained. Their behavior follows mathematical progressions. Even their adaptations have patterns, if you know how to look. Through skill and desperate luck, they'd maneuvered closer to the central collective vessel, a massive structure that dwarfed anything humans had ever built. We're being scanned, Park warned as they approached the final push. Now or never, Torres said. Maximum thrust. Get us as close to their command node as possible. The Defiant surged forward, immediately drawing fire from multiple collective vessels. The ship shuddered under impacts, systems failing across the board. "Shields failing," Park reported calmly. "Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. Torres nodded to Maya. "Doctor, it's time." Maya activated the quantum device, her fingers dancing across the control panel as she made final adjustments to match the enemy's ever-shifting frequencies. Initiating quantum cascade in 3, 2, 1. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a barely perceptible wave of distortion rippled outward from the Defiant, invisible to normal senses, but devastating at the quantum level. The effect on the Void Collective was immediate and dramatic. Their precise formations faltered. Energy weapons fired randomly into space. Several smaller vessels collided with each other as coordination collapsed. "It's working," Park exclaimed, but her celebration was premature. The main display showed the central collective vessel reconfiguring, adaptive systems working to counteract the disruption. "They're already adapting," Millet warned, skin pulsing with alarm colors. "The effect won't last." Maya studied the readings with mounting despair. "The disruption isn't strong enough to penetrate their central command structure. We need to get closer, directly alongside their main processing node." The main display showed the central collective vessel reconfiguring, adaptive systems working to counteract the disruption. "They're already adapting," Millet warned, skin pulsing with alarm colors. "The effect won't last." Maya studied the readings with mounting despair. "The disruption isn't strong enough to penetrate their central command structure. We need to get closer, directly alongside their main processing node." Torres understood immediately. "Set collision course for the central chamber of the main vessel," he ordered. "Sir, that's..." Park began. "The only way to ensure the device affects their primary systems." Torres finished for her. "Do it, Lieutenant." As the Defiant accelerated toward the massive alien ship, Maya worked frantically to boost the quantum device's output. "If we overload our own quantum core and synchronize it with the device, we can amplify the effect exponentially." "That would destroy us instantly," Millet observed. Maya met the Syrian's faceted eyes. "Yes, it would." Torres gave the order without hesitation. "Do it, Doctor." "Lieutenant Park, make sure every other ship knows to pull back beyond the calculated effect radius." The remaining human vessels retreated as the Defiant plunged toward the heart of the Void Collective's main ship. Defensive fire intensified, but the alien vessel's coordination remained compromised enough that the Defiant managed to evade the worst of it. "Impact in 30 seconds, Park announced, her voice steadied despite everything. Torres opened a channel to all Earth forces. "This is Commander Torres. Whatever happens next, remember, we never surrendered. Humanity fought to its last breath." "Device ready for synchronized detonation with our core," Maya reported. "Timing set to impact." Torres nodded to each of his remaining crew members. "It has been my honor to serve with you all." The Defiant crashed through the outer hull of the collective vessel, the impact throwing them all against their restraints. The quantum device activated at precisely the same moment that Maya initiated the core overload. What happened next defied conventional physics. The synchronized quantum disruption created a cascading effect that rippled through the collective's neural network at superluminal speeds, overwhelming their shared consciousness with contradictory information. From Earth, witnesses described it as a silent flash that seemed to bend light itself around the collective's ships. When it faded, the massive vessels hung motionless in orbit, their systems completely disabled. The Defiant was gone, vaporized in the quantum reaction it had triggered. But its sacrifice had achieved what seemed impossible. The Void Collective had been neutralized, their hive mind shattered into billions of disconnected fragments. 3 months later, humanity was still coming to terms with both its losses and unexpected survival. Nearly a third of Earth's population had perished in the attacks, and much of its infrastructure lay in ruins. Yet, amid the devastation, something remarkable had emerged. A unity of purpose that transcended old national boundaries. At a memorial ceremony in the rebuilt Geneva headquarters, the newly formed Human-Syrian Alliance unveiled a monument to those who had given their lives. At its center stood statues of Commander Torres, Dr. Patel, and Ambassador Kilith, symbols of the cooperation that had saved both species. Dr. Olivia Chen, who had worked alongside Maya in those final desperate days, now led the scientific team studying the disabled collective vessels. She addressed the assembled dignitaries with cautious optimism. The hive mind remains fractured, with individual components now operating as separate entities. Many appear to have developed independent consciousness, divorced from the collective's directive of consumption. Some have even requested communication channels. General Rivera, now Secretary of Defense for the Alliance, remained skeptical. Can we trust them? Trust takes time, Kelith responded, his skin shifting through thoughtful patterns of blue and gold. But we have seen evidence that without the collective consciousness driving them, these beings are capable of choice, of change. A young lieutenant approached the podium, carrying a quantum data core recovered from the Defiance debris field. Against all odds, it had survived, protected by exotic physics that scientists were still working to understand. "We recovered this last week," she explained. "It contains Commander Torres's final log entry, along with Dr. Patel's complete research notes and something else, what appears to be a map of collective territory, with details of other civilizations that might have survived." Rivera studied the projection with narrowed eyes. Other survivors. How many? Dozens, perhaps hundreds of species, hiding in nebulae, dark matter clouds, anywhere they could escape detection. The lieutenant replied. The collective's data archives were extensive. For the first time since the invasion, something like hope spread through the assembly. Humanity had not only survived, but now possessed technology and knowledge far beyond their previous understanding. The Syrians had found a new home among allies who valued their expertise, and somewhere out in the vast darkness of space, other civilizations waited, potential friends who had faced the same enemy and endured. The memorial ceremony ended with the activation of a quantum beacon, a modified version of the signal that had first warned Earth. But this beacon carried a different message, broadcasting on frequencies the former collective nodes could help transmit across vast distances. To all who resist, to all who survive, you are not alone. We stand together. As night fell over a healing Earth, the stars seemed somehow closer, the galaxy not a void of threatening darkness, but a realm of possibility, where humanity and their new allies would forge a future no one could have imagined before a quantum signal had changed everything. The last stand had become a first step,